So going back to like how long it took, I feel like people now if they're smart, they probably hire a mentor or a coach, and then, you know, within 6 months they're expecting results.
You get results in 6 months, but you may not get the results you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you think that you're going to open up a business and you're just going to make money, you don't know what's going on. You know, the reason I had to wait 9 years is because we utilized a strategy called a waterfall payback strategy. So if you don't have any money and you want to become a business owner and actually achieve wealth, you got to make a sacrifice that's comfortable for the investors that are involved. And what you do there is you go to a group of individuals and you look at an asset and you interpret what the asset means. And in that use case, there was a building that was a grocery store that was a dead property. It was worth crap, maybe a couple $100,000. We then increased the value of the property. So in exchange for increasing the value of the property, you negotiate a long-term lease value with a buyout option. So now that person gets the property appreciation. You predetermine the value of the buyout over a given term, and then that's the real estate deal. And then you got a separate deal, which is the business that's inside of the real estate, which increases the value of the real estate because the value of the real estate is based on a multiple of the lease value. So then I'm like, all right, I'll be the tenant with the people that want to be restaurant owners. The building owners just want to be building owners. So now you've got two companies that you can own that are one. And that's what I understood how to do. So when I looked at all of this and I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, well, now you have to put an immense amount of capital in. This is $3.5 million at that time. And what are they going to get back for that? And how are you going to eat in the meantime? Right. So with a waterfall strategy, I advise everyone to look it up. There's a European and American strategy. None of that matters. Just create a hybrid and understand it. Is when you take an investor's money and you say, hey, I don't necessarily want to be an owner with you for the rest of this business life cycle. So instead, I'm going to do an accelerated payback where you get paid back a guaranteed interest rate where it's like, hey, if I'm borrowing $1 million from you, I'm going to give you up to 2 or 1.5 back. And then you're gone. But you get paid first before I ever get paid any profits, or I just take a small amount of profits because I just want to get rid of you, right? And they're okay with that because you don't know if it's going to be around 4 or 5 years from now. I believe it will be. So for me, it's not like, oh, man, I had to wait forever to get results. I was getting results every day knowing that in 5 years, I'm going to be set for 50. So it wasn't like I'm mad that I didn't get to drive around in a Bentley today. I don't give a damn. I'm about to buy another restaurant tomorrow. You know, I could do 3 different restaurants at a time, knowing that each one has, this one's got 1 year left, this one's got 2. Now you start to build a portfolio without having to use your own money, but instead you're being you're a asset manager and not just addicted to building a business. It's a different role because I'm not a restaurant owner or operator. I can't run a kitchen, but I know how to run the business.
So then you moved to Arizona.
Yeah, I moved to Arizona because I knew that the problem that caused me to be an entrepreneur wasn't solved, and that was poverty and adversity within my communities. And I wanted to figure out how can I connect people and communities to jobs, because I noticed that the average time for somebody in an underprivileged community to get to work is 30 to 45 minutes. And that's if they drive, and that's how far a place is. But if you actually look at the public transit system, it takes them 2.5 hours to get there because they got to go from bus to bus and plan that ahead. And then also the qualms of, like, imagine going to a grocery store that's 5 miles from the bus stop. I had to do that when I was growing up. So, like, for us, it was like, we need to save our community, so we got to bring the jobs to them and the things to them. So I thought of the idea of using the tool I had built my businesses with, which I forgot to tell you guys this earlier, is how I did all that stuff with these bars and restaurants. Is I just worked in a Facebook group, and I had a bunch of engineers and super talented people all over the world that I used to reach out to and post tons of content online, get millions of followers on LinkedIn. And I had all these intelligent people coming to me to get access to my clients. Because all my life, I've known how to connect with powerful people and get big deals. So I'm like, hey, I got the deals, you got the talent. And that was what Ease originally was. It was just for me to manage all my people, pay them and everything. And I spent like $5,000 on somebody in India to build it. And that was for 5 years I used that. And then I moved here, and I'm like, man, I could turn this into a business. And because the guys that I met in Silicon Valley were like, yeah, like, we could build this. And I got it to like, all right, let me license it out. So I pre-sold the license to like 7 companies, got to like $30,000 a month in like the first 2 months. And then ended up getting here, and I'm like, just like, hey, I could just focus only on this. Let's do that. So I just start building. And then I get an idea. And my boy's like, man, just apply to Accelerator and venture capital. My boy Kobe, I'm like, man, I don't want to do that because investors are evil people. They're shady. He's like, man, just do it, but do it in your terms. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do some shit that nobody's ever done then. I'm gonna make a plan. So I put all these Post-it notes on the window, and I made this plan. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to this accelerator, this accelerator, this accelerator, and I'm not gonna take money from any of these people. I just want the connections. I may take a little, but I don't really want it because I want to be in control. So what I did was I was like, all right, I set on an equity accelerator. Teach me how to raise money. Went for Generator. Get into Generator. The same guy I campaigned for the Milwaukee Bucks with, the Milwaukee County executive, Chris Abley, is the guy who owns it. Says, don't raise no money from nobody. I agree. Let me do it. Cuts me a check for $500K, sends me a term sheet after. And then I'm like, all right, I'm off to the races. So I start grinding through Generator. Everywhere I went, pitched 450 people in 9 cities. And I turned them all down.
450 people in 9 cities in what period of time?
6 weeks.
And people are over here saying, man, I got 10 people rejecting my idea.
I got turned down 99.9%. I've pitched thousands of times. So every real accelerator you go through, you do about 400.
Do you want to break down what does the accelerator look like?
So what an accelerator is a programmatic strategy to helping people learn how to accelerate the growth of their businesses, either through connections or education or resources. So for us, what I did was I went to Generator because it taught you how to raise money. Average person raises $1.5 million when they go through it. But people don't know is less than 1% of people in the world can ever get into these. So 7,000 people apply, they accept 5. That's harder than getting into Harvard or the NFL. And then from there, I did that, I learned it, and I'm like, all right, now I need to learn how to sell to enterprise, because I didn't want to sell to small business anymore, because I felt like small business owners were a little bit difficult. So I wanted middle market or enterprise, but I didn't know how to do that. So I went to Plug and Play Tech Center, first person ever from Arizona, Wisconsin to ever graduate from Plug and Play, the world's largest global accelerator. And then from Plug and Play, I got into Web Summit's pitch, made it all to semifinals, the world's largest pitch competition. It's the same competition that Uber pitched and raised their seed round at $35 million. So like I got to hit the accolades of being accepted and graduated from every major accelerator on the planet, all in 1 year. And it was me and my brother and our dog. And so Spawn's the only dog to ever graduate from every major accelerator in the world.
You brought the dog with you?
He actually was on every single plane, and he actually was on stage and received an award with us on every one of them. So Spawn is the only dog that's graduated from Tier 1 accelerators in the world.
Yo, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So Spawn was just on stage.
Spawn was on every flight. He was in every pitch. When I pitched in boardrooms and investors, Spawn was sitting on the floor, right there with me.
Yeah, shout out Spawn.
Yeah, he knows a lot about venture capital. He just can't tell you.
He's a VC behind the scenes.
He might bark or something. Like, don't do that deal.
That's wild.
That was it, man. But I came back. I settled back here after a year and a half on the road. And
is that the year that you also went and just traveled around?
Yeah, did it all remote. I said you could do all this remote. So I built my restaurant
before the pandemic.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic. I was building remote work as a service forever, and that was my principle. That's how I built my identity, was digital nomad strategy. So if you look up, remote freelancer, that first keyword, ease, is like the first thing in line. It was a whole focus. So I built a multi-million restaurant and a technology company and venture capital all from my laptop, all hits on beaches. I wasn't really a lot of person, unless I had to do a meeting or something. But I literally built everything in my whole career to this day remotely, without ever working in an office, and I've never even had a full-time job. So it's just like, I just know that you can do it. So that was kind of like the whole thing, is like, come to Arizona, build technology and build something new. But also it was hard being a black founder with no background and from adversity, and knowing that, like, one thing I learned about going into the corporate and venture world was like, everybody wanted to use me as like a label, right? It was like, I always had to be because I'm black versus like just being because I'm talented. But I leaned into that a little bit, because it was like, you get $0 unless it's a social impact play. So the only way to get capital is to let them use that. So I just had to get over that for a while. And then eventually I was like, F that. I'm just going to sell to people who want to buy my services, instead of like giving up a piece of me for someone to celebrate that didn't participate. So to date, I have some amazing investors. I've gotten rid of some people that don't belong, and we've been building something that's different than I've ever seen before, where like we went from building these great companies to now I get to work with all the greatest universities in the world to find their best and brightest and teach them everything that I know, and every mentor and every VC and every accelerator I've ever learned. And it's been crazy, working with Arizona State, Grand Canyon University, UC Riverside, I mean, it's wild. Like, I'm a college dropout, and I'm on the board of numerous universities.
That's crazy.
It's really weird,
I
you know?
No, I just thought it was amazing. Like, just you being asked to go teach or speak in these universities. I'm just sitting there just like, this is incredible.
I just don't know how I got there, because to me, I thought I'm unteachable. So how do I teach? And I think what I realized more than anything is that we were all right, not just me, and that we called for the educational system to change. We called for healthcare to change. We called for business to change. We called for remote. We called for all these things that it took a sneeze to notice. Like, everybody had to have a massive global reason to stand up for themselves. And now the world is like, oh, these open jobs, nobody wants to work. No, they just work for themselves. Like, the world is changing to an era where we're going back to trades. 4-year degrees are going back to 2 years, 12-week boot camps. I want to learn and use skills today, because right now America can't keep up with the technological growth because the education is too slow. So now we have to hire talent from other places to keep going. So my main focus today is, how do I upskill and elevate the minds of the people and give them things that they can give back so that they can each one teach one. So that's kind of where I think my long-term future goes, is because from where I'm at and the seat I'm in, I don't have all the capital in the world, but I have all the knowledge capital and the people with the capital. So if I can bridge people like you and the people watching this video to opportunities, my job is done. That's what God put me here for.